Sometimes the best business ideas don't start with spreadsheets, market research, or carefully written business plan. Sometimes they start with something much simpler, a passion, a community, or in today's case, a love of dogs. Welcome, or hopefully welcome back to The Reluctant Entrepreneur. Today, the pet industry is enormous. In the United States alone, it's well over $100 billion a year. But despite that massive market, many pet businesses still look pretty much the same. Retail shelves, products on hooks, and a checkout counter. But what if a pet business wasn't just a place to buy things for your dog? What if it was a place designed around the relationship between dogs and their humans? A place built around community, experiences, and connection. That's exactly the idea behind Puptqe. Today I'm joined by Courtney Honda and Slava Borisov, the founders of Puptqe, a fast-growing brand that's rethinking what a pet business can be. Instead of focusing only on products, they've created a space where dog lovers gather, socialize, attend events, and celebrate the bond we share with our four-legged companions. But like most entrepreneurial stories, the road from idea to reality wasn't perfectly straight. It required risk, creativity, and a willingness to build something new in a very competitive industry. So today we're going to talk about how Puptqe came to life, what it takes to build a brand around community, and what Courtney and Slava have learned along the way as founders. Stick around. This is going to be great. Courtney, Slava, thanks for being here today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation as a fellow dog lover.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Well, my pleasure. I'm glad you're here. So, Courtney and Slava, before Puptqe existed, what were each of you doing professionally, and what paths led you toward entrepreneurship?
Great question. So I actually was in marketing, so sales and marketing. And prior to that, I was engulfed in just other fields of industry. So from tech to startups and fitness. So that was my background.
Yeah, I was working for a franchisor in 2012 and saw the rapid growth. It was in the frozen yogurt industry, but just that boom that happened from like 2010 to 2016. And just to see how the operations came together and everything else. Then in construction technology, we launched a construction technology company, and then as a general contractor as well. So kind of all the fields that brought us to this point. So that's my background.
Well, you both brought some pretty impressive and very specific and very needed skills to this. Courtney, with your marketing background, that's come in handy. When I was researching your company, I can see the results of all your marketing efforts. And Slava, with your franchising experience and GC experience, I mean, I know that you have some plans to franchise out. In fact, some pretty aggressive plans, according to Business Wire. Maybe 200 locations in the next 6 years or so, or 4 years by 2030. So your franchising experience is going to help, and your construction experience is going to help build out a lot of those stores, or at least know what's possible in retail locations. So good job. I mean, most people, I came in knowing nothing about, anything I needed to know except the tech that I was creating. I didn't know anything about business or marketing or, growth management, cash management. I couldn't even read a financial statement, and it's amazing I survived. But you've got that going for you. Was there a specific moment when the idea for Puptqe first surfaced, or was it something that evolved gradually from your own experiences as dog owners? And I know a little bit of the story, but I want this to come out in your words.
Yeah, so back in 2022, we actually experienced something with our dog Champ. So he had a bunch of health issues. He went to numerous urgent care visits, and eventually he had to be hospitalized. And from there, he completely flatlined. Luckily, he was revived, and he's still with us today. But that sparked us to start something that celebrated our special relationship with our dog. And we felt that a lot of other people felt that same way. So it actually started off as a online business, and it strictly was just for Japanese dogs. So with my background in marketing, I just wanted to create something more on the hobby end. Oh, let's just make cute Kishuken dog items. And then it eventually became something which is Puptqe now. But when Slava and I had got married a few years back at our wedding, he told our whole entire family, friends, that we had something special coming in 9 months. And at that time,
Oh, Slava,
no idea.
that's cruel. I
I
know
know.
what.
Getting text messages from family members and our parents. Are you having a baby? Of course, that's automatically what they jumped into.
Of
So
course.
we immediately got back to California, and with no plan really in mind, we decided let's open up a brick and mortar store, and that's how Puptqe came to life.
Wow. Now you were already doing it online, so there was some, your marketing was in action. You had a presence. You probably had some degree of success in selling product. So you had a customer base that was used to ordering online. When you translated that or transformed that into a brick and mortar store, how much of your experience online just kind of blended beautifully into brick and mortar, and how much of it was like very different?
Everything I think was actually different because what Puptqe started as, it was specifically for a niche of having the same dog that we have, which is a Kishuken, and it's a Japanese dog. So all the merchandise was branded on Puptqe dog mom or Kishuken dog mom, Kishuken dog dad, and it was all graphics that were specifically just Japanese dogs. So it was a complete shift. We did preach the health and wellness part, which is a huge part of our Puptqe model, as well as what we provide as far as products in store. But it was completely different from what it started on the online side to what it became in the brick and mortar.
And I think to echo that a little bit is, when you start a business, the what and the how, what products you sell and how you sell those products, yes, it's critical to every business needs customers and cash to fuel that business. But if you start with the why you exist, what you want to do and what you want to provide in the marketplace, which we wanted to celebrate the special bond you share with your dog. And I think we started with that. We didn't know where it was going to go. And just taking our background and looking at it is, the only way to provide an experience the best way you can, just like Disneyland and Chuck E. Cheese and all these entertainment places, is have a brick and mortar store. And looking statistically, we didn't just do it randomly. 80% of customers still shop in store, 20% still shop online. And then the funny thing is, people think retail is dying. It's being repositioned, right? And it's being transformed where you're going to have smaller spaces, more engagement, more entertainment driven. And that's what you're really seeing, because the in-store hasn't fallen off for the last 5 years, 6 years even. It's pre-COVID. Still about 80% of all customers shop in-store. So I think in looking at that, and as venture capital money has slowed down into e-commerce, direct-to-consumer, because all that money was fueled for marketing to acquire a customer. But no one talks about the retention of that customer. Now you're getting more returns online, and those brands are charging for those returns. So you're seeing this return, and this people want to physically be in stores, touch, feel, smell, get all their sensories to go off. So I think that's really, really important to see. And we're seeing it across the board where, brands like ours, where we decided not to go wide, but to go really deep and focus. We were so tempted to do grooming, training, boarding, like these other pet brands, but we said, no, we want to be the best in the industry for dog lovers, specifically for entertainment, experiences, community, and commerce, to tie it all together, because the brand has to sustain itself. And we did that without specifically focus on discounts and just the commerce side. So I think that's it's a long answer, but retail is being repositioned, and I think it's exciting. It's entertainment has to be part of it. Experience has to be a part of it. Because 90% of the consumer now, before they even come into your store or any product, they're going to research it or even buy it online, and they're going to look at everything they can. So the information, not that we've gotten smarter, but the information is now so readily available. I'm not saying it's accurate, right? ChatGPT and everything else, but what I'm saying is it's available for all of us, tip of our finger. So, that's what's really fun and exciting for us at this point, seeing that.
Yeah, when I look at like the fashion industry. I'm not a fashionista, quite clearly, but my wife likes to shop at stores that are you know, higher end. So I'll say it in terms of like a mass market store like Nordstrom or Saks or Bloomingdale's or whatever. And my experience when I go with her is it's an experience to go there. I mean, yes, they have racks and clothes hanging from racks and changing rooms like Penny's would, but they also have piano players. They also have manufacturers there doing product demos. They also have a restaurant in their store. They also have, they serve champagne and things like that. It's an experience in addition to commerce. And there's a lot of industries that are known for that. You mentioned Chuck E. Cheese, the world's worst, in my opinion, the absolute world's worst quality pizza. But it's an experience, that's for sure. And the kids would argue that it's a great experience and the pizza's amazing, as they get their tickets and blow it all on some stupid machine. But I mean, it's an experience. And this is the first time I've seen that experience applied to your specific industry. It seems, and to me, that was an easy mark that was just missed by everybody. Even big companies like PetSmart and others. Yeah, they have a community, but it's really, I don't think the community is organized by them. I think it just happens to be a whole bunch of people go there, and half of them are bringing their dogs or whatever with them, and they form a little community within this retail establishment. It doesn't seem to be curated by them. You're all about the experience.
Yeah. PetSmart, Petco, even Chewy's probably the most hospitable experience-based brand, even though they're online. If you call them, they have all information about your dog and everything else. But it's all transactional. You don't feel anything when you walk, even independent pet stores. And I think most businesses, they don't really know what business they're in. They're in the product business, like you mentioned, Chuck E. Cheese. They're in the experience and capturing the moments business, just like Disneyland, just like everything, So the pizza tastes that much better at Chuck E. Cheese once you have a great experience,
Right. Take it home. It's not the same the next morning. And pizza is supposed to be better the next morning. It is definitely not. So many entrepreneurs describe the moment when an idea shifts from this could be interesting to we're actually going to do this. Did you have that moment, or did you just start out of the gate, we're going to do this? Or did it slowly quicksand you in, from starting the online, very niche, Japanese specific dog products to we're going to do this and we're going to do brick and mortar and we're going to franchise and we're going to come up with these grand plans? I mean, what was the catalyst for that?
So one thing about both Slava and I is that when we do something all in.
Yeah.
And when we just had that idea and we ran with it, it was like, why not? Let's just do it. So from the entrepreneur experience and going from there, that was the catalyst. That every single milestone that we have experienced, starting from the online, then deciding from that one conversation and having the announcement that we were going to open up a brick and mortar store, to then a couple years later deciding to franchise, all of those little milestones became big catalysts to move us forward to where we are right now.
And you realize, Slava, you're not off the hook. You did kind of promise something special in 9 months. That wasn't what they were expecting. I don't know if you still owe them that, but they're keeping track.
Right?
They're keeping track.
The baby side of it, this is much harder, I think, if you look at the journey than raising the actual baby itself. But yeah,
I think there's a lot of commonality between raising children, being married, and running a business. It's compromises, it's negotiations, it's strategy, it's passion, it's love, it's all of these things. It's annoyance. It's all of these things that are common in any relationship or common in a business, I think. What were some of the early doubts or challenges you faced when you started your business? And limit it to about 8,000 or 9,000. We don't have time for any more.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like any business is survival, right? The the number one thing is we mentioned earlier, yes, you have to start with why you exist, and you start there. And everyone's passionate in the beginning, right? And you have the glee moment, right? And then it's the fee moment, all these fees that come into place. But I think it's, anyone who starts art, I don't care what anyone says, it's capital is the number one driver, right? Of that business. Doesn't matter how much you hustle and grind that, what we see on social media. The reality is you have to figure out the resources you have, which is your time, and capital, which is the financial side. And I think so many times, I've had a story, and it's to this day, it's been on my mind. We had to collateralize her engagement ring just to make payroll, right? But it was for me as a
Wow.
man, it was one of the difficult things to do, but I knew it was the right, and I was like, the what ifs, we don't get that back and everything else. But those are the type of things probably the most hardest decision I've ever made from that standpoint. But I think overall, when you're starting, it's like chewing, Elon Musk said it the best. It's like chewing glass and looking to the abyss, because you don't really know what's going to happen, where things are going to come, because you could be taken out of business so fast from a legal standpoint to just a customer or whatever it might be in one instant as a startup. So in a nutshell, that's kind of my experience, and the most difficult thing we faced, and we still face. But we're obviously a lot more nimble now, and putting a model together, the franchising model, where it mitigates our risk significantly from a capital exposure standpoint, and really supporting other business owners to be extremely successful. I think that allows us to really focus on the business and on the brand, and grow entrepreneurs in the brand itself. So I think that the biggest challenge that we had is, and we're going to continue to have, is you don't know what you don't know. And I think being willing not to necessarily even to look at your industry, other industries, I think that's so important. Because all businesses are the same function. It's people, communication, execution, and capital. You need the capital, human capital, either through sweat equity or actual capital, and probably a combination of both regardless. But I think that's so underrated, where people are like, I have a passion, I'm going to start it, I'm going to do this, I'm going to get investors, I'm going to do this. And trust me, I've failed businesses where I was my own ignorance. I have, where I went in and so just my passion is going to drive me alone. It's important, it's critical, because it'll get you through those hard points of pawning the engagement ring. But it's I think that was one of the most hardest and challenging things that we had to go through, or I had to, like, as a man going through that, thinking about, you just proposed, to your wife, you just got married, and now you're like, hey,
I'll take that back. I'll take the ring back.
We need that liquidity for a short period of time. So that was really challenging, and we had another business that we had to use that capital, all the profits, to go into this business. So
that is real commitment to the business, to take the ring off and pawn it. And to my listening audience, we have two audiences, those that are watching on YouTube. They just saw that beautiful ring. So I can assure you, listening audience, the ring is back on her finger where it belongs. He successfully rescued it from the pawn shop. So clearly they overcame that particular day's financial hurdle. Slava did a really good job at talking about the very practical business challenges. From your standpoint, did you face separate challenges? Did you have a different view on challenges, ones that maybe landed in, other than a lighter hand, for a while? Did you have any other specific challenges that just kind of landed on you?
For me, because I was doing more of the operations and from the marketing side, being in a new market, being in a new business was completely an experiment almost for the first year. We did everything so fast that from finding a location to deciding we were going to open up a brick and mortar store to opening our doors, that was condensed within 9 months. So we got married in February. We opened our first brick and mortar in November. Very quick turnaround. And from the hiring to the training to the operations, inventory, and everything else in a new market was completely new. So going through those challenges, as well as understanding the retail seasons, being in a different location, all of those were challenges. Just running a new business over the first year. Now we're going into year 3, and it's definitely changed. Now we can coach other business owners to avoid some of the pitfalls we experience, but also learn from some of the things that we experienced too, so they could succeed even more than we are. So, I mean, as far as the challenges, I think that's really everything. There's so many as a business owner, the day to day. But that's from my point of view.
Speaking of challenges, working with business partners can be challenging. When I started my business 34 years ago, I had a business partner who seemed to be the perfect business partner. I thought he was everything I wasn't. I had certain skill sets. He had, I thought, certain skill sets. And I thought that for the stupidest reason on the planet. He was about 15 years older than me, maybe 20, and he had some gray hair. I was 32, no gray hair, and I just thought he was wiser because he was older, he's been on the earth longer, and he has gray hair, and he's in my industry. Duh. And then I realized after I did that, he was a good guy, but I realized he didn't bring anything to the table, including money. And I gave him part of the business because I just felt I had this last 11th hour fear-based decision, like a little imposter syndrome. Like, I don't think I can do this myself. I'll give part of the company to this guy because I know he can help carry me over the finish line. And I couldn't have been more wrong. It was amazingly cringeworthy, awful. And I had to now buy him out of a company that he did not buy into, but that's the way it worked. So working with business partners can be challenging. Working with business partners who you're married to just raises the stakes. I can only imagine. My wife used to work with me as a very underpaid employee when I started the company. And I couldn't have done it without her. But the two of us did not work well together. We've been married successfully, I would say. She can't hear me, so I'll just go with that. For 44 years. I've been married so long I could have killed 2 men and been out of prison by now, but I'm still married. And so clearly something's working there, but we cannot work together. We came to that conclusion. It took about 2 years, but depending who tells the story, I either fired her ass or she quit. Both are accurate. Both are accurate. There's an element of truth to each one, but we don't work well together. And that made nights and weekends miserable because if something was stressful during the day, it got exaggerated at night. It just amplified at night. And so for us, it didn't work. So I'm always in awe of people like the two of you, at least from a distance, from what I can see. You're holding it together quite well. The ability to work together, to yin-yang it, where, Slava's strengths and your strengths combine to, for greater good, to build a company, and then still be able to function, still be able to sleep at night, eat dinner together, and have whatever warped version of work-life balance there is in the early days. But I find that amazing, and it's a skill I don't possess, nor my wife possesses. So I do find it very, very impressive and inspiring. But what are some of the challenges that one would have as a married couple or just as business partners? What can you warn people about in terms of, like, not necessarily don't do it, or maybe don't do it, but not necessarily don't do it. But what would you say, okay, here's something you didn't expect that landed in your relationship, and just to be prepared for it?
Well, what works out is that we're both stubborn. So, and we know we're both very stubborn. So
two type A's.
Yes, there's a catch to that. But we're fortunate enough to be able to work together for not only this company, but other companies. And then previously, we worked together starting other companies. So it's helped us through this whole entire journey to learn each other's skills as well as each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we really play off of that. I think the hardest thing as being a married couple and running a business is that keeping the personal and then the business separate. So making sure that you always have time to go on dates or schedule something so you have fun. And luckily we have two dogs that we can enjoy going outdoors with all the time and separating ourselves from work, but also making it fun and doing spontaneous little getaways or date nights has really helped along the way.
Then I think the biggest thing in any business, if you could get to this point, is getting the business to be integrated like a lifestyle. Some brands preach it, oh, lifestyle, work-life balance, but I think at the end of the day, where what you preach, you do. For example, when we travel, there's some business integrated into it, but it's a lifestyle. Like even when we went to Hawaii for our anniversary and her birthday, we still did some commerce, some business, but at the end of the day, it was integrated in. So I think if you get to that point and the spouse is comfortable with that as a partner, and not just comfortable, embraces it, I think that's the most important thing. Then work becomes really fluid, right?
Yeah.
So, because in business, you don't know. You could work at 9 p.m. You could work at 5 a.m. It depends on what things come up and things are scheduled.
Sure.
But and I think that's the hardest part. Going to how do you get the personal side and the business side to a lifestyle. And quite frankly, I don't care who you are. I think when people say separating, Courtney mentioned personal and business, you're not going to be able to do that. I don't care if you're a W-2, you're a business owner. You can't. We're not robots where you just take a switch it on, switch
Right.
it off.
It's
So
there.
It's gonna
It's lurking.
Yeah, it's there. So I always tell our team the same thing. It's how do you channel it properly, whatever might be going on personally, or someone might said something or did something to you. And how do you channel it to be positive and optimistic and successful? And you're not always going to get the result that you want, but that's really the goal. And I think it's hard. How do you take personal and business and put it into lifestyle? And I think if you could do that, we're still working on it to get that successful, and we integrate our dogs into it, which it's part of our lifestyle. And hospitality, the same thing, part of our lifestyle. Everything that we do, what we preach, we integrate into the lifestyle. And I think that's what makes it easier for sure and more fluid.
Yeah. I think there's also, you talk about, doing some commerce when you go on vacation. There's also a savvy reason to do that. And that is every vacation has some element of a work trip to it, which makes at least that percentage of element a business expense. And, in the early days of business, that really doesn't help you because, people usually aren't like wildly profitable the first short period of time. You're not looking for deductions. You're looking for to not spend money. But at some point, bringing in business to personal trips is something my wife and I do quite well. Even though we don't work well together, we travel very well together. We go on vacations a lot. We're like avid travelers. And because my business now is 34 years old and we have equipment and customers on 6 continents, we're waiting for Antarctica to defrost. And then maybe we'll get the 7th magic continent. But right now we're on 6 continents. I've got customers literally all over the world. So I can go visit a customer. And to the extent that some of the money we spent on a vacation was business travel, that helps today. So it's a wise move to integrate both. And I agree with you. Work-life balance, when people say work-life balance, I think what they say and what they do are completely two different things. It's not work-life separation. It's balance. So there's a little bit of your weight on her side of the teeter-totter, and there's a little bit of her weight on your side of the teeter-totter. So that it's not separated. It's just balanced. So it doesn't pull you in overly hard in one direction or the other. So Puptqe isn't just a traditional pet store. You're not Petco. You're not PetSmart. It seems to be much more than the product that you sell. It's much more focused, as we talked about earlier, on an experience and community of dog lovers. What was the vision behind that? What made you say, okay, I understand the love for dogs. Okay, I get that. That's not rare. But some people would have, I have a love for dogs. I'm going to sell great products online like you did. What made you say, no, we're going to build an experience model? Did you have an experience at another type of store that inspired you, or what made you say, okay, in addition to the great products you sell, we're going to create a great experience? How'd that come about?
Yeah, I think going into a lot of different pet stores and even veterinarians, and it was all transactional and it was all discount based and discount to the bottom. Petco, PetSmart, even independents. And one of the things we focused on is, we realized, what business do we want to be in? Most retailers in the pet space are in the product or service business. We're the cleanest, we're the best, or whatever it might be. It's always we. It's not about, well, like Sam Walton said, the customer could fire us all, right? So we wanted to say, what business do we want to be in? We want to be in the experience, entertainment, community, and commerce, the 4 pillars that we have. And leading with that, taking that model and being in that space, the entertainment, experience, and community. And we happen to have the world's best dog products for health and wellness. Taking that approach, really spearheaded everything else and all the decisions moving forward. So compared to the other retailers where they're saying, we have the best products, and you come in here, you get the best pricing, and our only competitive advantage, our unique selling proposition, most independent retailers or even large ones, we're a community dog store. And that's it. We're an independent, whatever it might be. We want it to be a community dog store where you celebrate your dog's life, where you celebrate big milestones with your dog, where you come in for events, where you're really connected. And we're the vessel, Puptqe. Every city that we go into, our size and the square footage strategically, we did it much smaller than your Petco, where it is a community vessel and where people come in and share their stories, share their experience, and capture their moments that they have with their dogs. So, and we love all animals. I think it's really important. People say, why don't you do cats and other things? Is we love all animals, but we want it to really be the best in the world, and we are when it comes to dogs. Specifically on the experience entertainment side, be the categorical leader. And there really isn't a category for that in a $157 billion space in the US alone. So everybody's doing grooming, training, everything else. It's really kind of fragmented right now. But we want it to be the Disneyland when it comes to dogs.
Yeah, that's great. There's a book that I reference quite a bit on the show. And in fact, so often that I'm sure most of my audience think I must be on the payroll, for the author. But Jim Collins wrote a book called Good to Great, where he studied.
Love that.
Yeah. So as you know, he studied pairs of publicly traded companies, each pair being in the same space. So it would be like PetSmart and Petco, right? For example. So and he came up with an analysis of all the pairs of companies, of the one that did well in the same space as the one who did not do as well. What do they all have in common? And he came up with, a dozen attributes on each side, pro and con. And all the companies that were successful against their very similar rival had very similar attributes. And one of them was to not be an also-ran, to be best in class at one thing, do one thing really well. And I learned that the hard way. After many years in business, I ended up realizing, okay, this is stupid. I was saying yes to too many things. The word no is more profitable than the word yes, by the way. That I learned that in business. But I was saying yes to everything just because I could. Well, if I do this, I could do that, I guess. And the other stuff, the also-rans, I can't honestly say were the industry's best. They were okay. They were not bad, but they weren't the best. And finally, one day I said, okay, we got to clean house. We're just selling way too much stuff. And we're not having the right amount of time to dedicate to what we are good at, our stuff in our wheelhouse. So we cleared house. We fired a whole bunch of products, and we thinned out our production and concentrated on, what we do best in the world. And business skyrocketed. And our revenue went down a little bit at first because we weren't selling the junk stuff, but our profit went way up. And then eventually, of course, the revenue caught up and exceeded. But I think that's a wise move. And it takes some discipline to do that, particularly when you're a new company, because you can make money selling cat toys. There's people just as obsessed about their cats as we are with our dogs. my family, we have both cats and dogs. They are not obsessed with each other, by the way, but they tolerate each other. But it's easy to go, you know what? Oh, Stephanie, we need some more revenue. Let's just start selling cat stuff. And, Slava, we should sell hamster wheels. I mean, I can just see that happening as a backfill to get over a hump. It's the equivalent of hawking a ring, only it's harder. It's easier to get your ring out of hawk than it is to realize you've just built an entire distribution channel and product line off stuff that you don't have passion about and you're not the best at. Then you become very slowly another Petco,
We could have doubled our revenue early on if we took the traditional Petco, PetSmart, or some independents, added grooming to it, or daycare, or boarding easily. And we knew that in the beginning, and we have some of our competitors in franchising, that preach two business models. We do grooming, we do retail, and this is our competitive advantage. But it's the jack of all trades, master of none, where we strategically said we're not doing that when we could have, because we saw the future for franchisee business owners that are coming in. How can we simplify this model, cookie box model, and provide so much support from them through that model where they could execute in any city? Because running a grooming business and a retail business and a boarding business, that is tough. Running one of those is tough by itself. So, and focusing on different animals. So I think that's where like you said, discipline was really, really, really hard. And it still is, because it's very tempting to we could add grooming. Now add 40% to our top line. We know that, but there's risks to that. There's liability to that. There's training for, the groomers to that. So, and you're also in those businesses like grooming, you're capped how much revenue you can make. You could only do so many dogs, and then you have to make another cap. Then you have to invest into another location.
Yeah.
To make more. So for us, we're not really, our cap, I think, is $4 million per store. Just give an idea, in a 1,500 square foot box. So
that's a lot per square foot. That's really maximized optimization there.
Yeah. So we just add another sales associate on the floor with an iPad, like Apple. We don't need to add another groomers or another location. And that was strategically thought through from the very inception. If we franchise that, how could any business owner get the playbook and get the full support? Like right now, we have a team of 10 on the franchising side, more in-house, more than most franchisors with 50 open locations. And we support everything from real estate site selection, when they come into the thing, a full back end to full training, and beyond. The marketing comes in, local store marketing, because we started with 0 customers in a market that we're 2 hours away from. Again, strategically, because we said if we can make it work in this market, a smaller market in Temecula, California, we can make it work anywhere. We started with no customers at all. So I think that's where proving out the model and that. And, as an emerging franchisor, we wanted to mitigate the risk for any business owner, because as AI accelerates, there's going to be a lot more business owners, not entrepreneurs, business owners that will need to supplement their income or find different means to generate income for themselves, because unfortunately some jobs will become obsolete. They will, and there's going to have to be different. There's going to be a shift that's going to happen, and franchising will be, I think, a catalyst in our economy.
And Mike, to your point and what you experienced before and having to just change some of the products, the SKUs, we actually started with quite a bit of SKUs, and we took recommendations from customers, community, everyone else. And we realized that just limiting the SKUs made a big difference, because now we just have the best products for our customers in that area, and every location will be different. But also something that you said, to say no more. Actually, my 2026, and I'm looking at it right now, it in big bold letters, it says to say no more. So learning that along the process of being an entrepreneur and going through all of this is something that I think everyone can learn as well.
Yeah, I think the trick to saying no is to take fear off the table. We fear if we say no, will someone else say yes, and will we have regret? And I have made more money, by far, more money saying no than I have saying yes. I have lost money saying yes. I've also made money saying yes, but I've never lost money saying no. I have only lost money saying yes. So I say yes far more selectively than I say no. If it doesn't scream at me, I'll generally say no, unless it screams at me. And then it has to scream at me loud and for a long time, right? For me to say yes. Stephanie, talk to me about, Courtney. Stephanie is working with your company. I've been working with her to get the two of you on the show. Courtney, tell me about, I watched an interview that you did, I think both of you did, on some local news channel about your Temecula store. By the way, great city to start this kind of business. I can see that doing quite well, particularly if your customers show up with their dogs after they've done wine tasting. They're just going to buy everything on your shelf. But what's the bar about? The pup bar, or what, I forget what you called it, but it's very unique to your store. Is that for dogs to have a drink? Is that for your customers to have something to drink? And
That's always a question we get all the time.
yeah,
Yes, we do have a dog bar just for dogs, though. We have dog-friendly beer, we have dog-friendly wine, champagne, tequila, whiskey, just for dogs. And then we also have a pup cup menu. So we have a rotating pup cup menu every week. It changes with the member of the week. And then also we have different flavors, treats, and it's completely free. So what's great about it is that people come in with their dogs. They come to the pup bar. Immediately, the dog is so excited because they get a pup cup or a dog beer, and they sit there and they enjoy it. And this time, the owner can watch them enjoy it instead of the dog watching the human enjoy their drink
that's
of choice.
so funny how you have dog versions of adults' favorite alcoholic beverages. So a dog can go in and order an old fashioned or something, and they get an old doggy old fashioned. That's amazing. That must really bring, though, a sense of community into that environment. There was a pet store, like a healthy bakery pet store. They only baked for dogs, and it was up in. We spent a lot of time in Lake Arrowhead. We're all California natives here, so I'm sure you're familiar with Lake Arrowhead. And they had a dog bakery there, but it was also that's where all the local residents and tourists that brought their dogs up, mostly residents, would just go in and give their dog a little treat. They give treats out to the dogs and then buy a safe chocolate, fake chocolate type cake to bring home to the dog or whatever. But it definitely had a very sense of community. When we used to live up there, when we were building our home down here, and we were staying at our vacation house in Arrowhead, and so we had our dogs with us. So we would take that. They were part of our normal dog walk. We would always go into the store, and we just felt compelled to always buy something because we're not just going to go get free treats and leave. But it was definitely a sense of community, and we started meeting friends who would frequent that place as well. So it sounds like you're building something very similar and probably experiencing the same reactions from your customers as we reacted to when we were customers there. It definitely is a sense of community. And I think if anyone has a dog that's ever taken them to a dog park, you see that community at a dog park. You start recognizing the same people over and over and over again, and both good and bad, mostly good. And there's always what I call the crazy dog lady, the crazy dog guy, who's just making sure that if your dog goes to the bathroom that you pick it up in 8 seconds. Otherwise, they're yelling at you. It's like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. They're not done yet, So but there's always that person. But there's definitely a sense of community. And to monetize that sense of community, to be able to monetize that already existing sense of community, you don't have to create a community. Some businesses, you have to create a community. You already naturally have one. You just need a place for it to flow into, right? And so it's a beautiful idea. We're starting to run out of time, so just a couple of quick questions. Looking ahead, well, first, let me back up. You plan on franchising. Right now, you have a store in Temecula. Do you have any other corporate-owned or franchise-owned stores at this point in time?
Currently, no. We actually started franchising, got our FDD back in last December, and we are fully franchised now. So Q1, we really put the team together, put the foundational blocks together this year, and we put the model together to we're currently franchising now, and we have Texas, probably South Carolina's coming up, California, Long Beach. And the cool thing is the model's so simple and straightforward, and you're doing a retail space, not a restaurant, where the timelines are so much longer.
Yeah.
And we strategically, for the first 100 stores, are looking for second generation spaces. So what that the audience doesn't know, it's spaces that currently had a retailer there, a restaurant. So we're reusing a lot of the infrastructure, from
Yeah.
the HVAC to the plumbing to everything else,
Yeah,
so we
saves
can get
money.
up. It saves money, and also on the permitting side really accelerates that
Yeah.
timeline, specifically in states like California, Illinois, New York, much more challenging states with just jurisdictions. But yeah, it's exciting. We started franchising that out, and we have a phenomenal team in place. And I think with the experience and background, and putting something very unique into the marketplace that doesn't currently exist, and finding the right business owners. I know this podcast is about entrepreneurship, but there's a difference between an entrepreneur who starts from scratch, right? And then there's the business owner, either buys into the business, or later when it's more established, and follows a playbook, the support. So I think sometimes people, I guess as an entrepreneur, you become a business owner at some point once everything's established. But entrepreneurship by itself, I think it's so much more challenging, because that's kind of my definition of it, because you're really the catalyst to get everything started in the very beginning. We were talking about, is just so much more challenging.
Yeah, and entrepreneurs are really frustrating people to have around. Courtney's going, duh. We don't follow rules. We're very easily distracted. We're always chasing the shiny object in the corner. We always go, ooh, I got an idea. And you just drop whatever you were working on and go to something else. That's me in a nutshell. Right? Does that sound familiar, Courtney and Slava? I don't know if the two of you are that way. You seem to be a little bit more methodical. Yeah? Yeah, that's great.
No, we're our team actually always tells us this, that when we have an idea, we drop everything and we execute that idea, and they're like, we can't keep up. I'm like, nope, we're going with it. Let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah. And we have to succeed. You have to succeed, because A, you want to keep that beautiful ring on your finger, and B, you're unemployable now. The genie's out of the bottle.
Yes.
The toothpaste is out of the tube. You cannot go back and work a 9 to 5, because you'd be fired in the first 20 minutes, because you have a vision, you chase the vision, you're bulls in china shops, and you just get stuff done. You don't have time for stupid. You're probably just like, okay, this is what we're doing. And, that's the unique wiring of an entrepreneurial brain. And to your point, Slava, if someone's buying a business and buying a playbook and is a great executor, they're still entrepreneurial. They're still technically an entrepreneur, because they are signing their own checks, but they may not have that same entrepreneurial spirit. They may be really good at following directions and maybe even building on that, but obviously the two of you are the ones that are the unemployable now, because you've already experienced this and you've already spent a few years doing it. Besides additional franchising, besides that very impressive goal of a couple hundred franchises in the next several years, what's the long-term vision for Puptqe and for your involvement in Puptqe? Do you see yourself as an operator of one store and owners of the franchise system, or do you see yourself really more in the corporate level, maybe separating away from the day-to-day operation of a store and just really leveraging, do you see yourself empire building, or do you see yourself staying in the trenches?
Well, I think you have to do both, regardless how big the company is. And I think that's a mistake CEOs make, presidents. They get so disconnected from the brand, or founders sometimes. And I think for us, really, really, really important is we want to grow this company to 600 units. And it sounds like a big, lofty goal, but for what we have and the simplicity of the model and the markets that are available just in the United States alone, very achievable, especially once we hit scale to do that. Because, you know, for us, being in trenches is important to understand how it works. But yeah, we see ourselves really building this up. And I think I think really quick to answer this as well is franchising is just a growth vehicle, right? We could have went outside and did the debt side or the venture side, but I think a lot of franchisors, and franchisees who look at it, they think you need a bunch of company stores. I think that's the worst mistake you could make is because you're focused now on you've taken premium markets off the board for other business owners, franchisees, and you're focused now, you're in two businesses. A
Yeah.
franchise model is really to find entrepreneurs, train or business owners, which is entrepreneurial in spirit, train them, provide them as much support so they're successful and you're successful. I think the mistake people make is like, well, we need a bunch of company stores. It's like, well, why'd you franchise? So we decided to use franchise as a growth vehicle. Um, Best example, I use this for our team. Crumble only had one location and they still have one location. I think they even sold that, but they're so focused on, regardless of what people's opinions of them are, they're extremely successful in their category, the number one cookie leader, because they focus on the franchisees and how could they be successful. And I think that's the number one mistake franchisors make is they think they need a bunch of company stores, then to franchise. It's like, why? Yeah, you might as well go raise debt or raise some capital and just do it on your own at that point.
Yeah, I interviewed the founder of one of Crumble's competitors called Dirty Dough, and they have,
Oh, yeah.
and he built the company up, built a few stores, and then sold it. And now he works for the new owner of the company, and he's running their franchise operation. So he is now selling franchises for the concept he created. So that sounds like that will probably be kind of your journey, maybe not selling it and then working for it, but certainly turning into that. So I normally ask all of my guests in this final question the following question. I'm going to modify this question. Normally, I ask, how did you define success when you first started your business, and how do you define it today? But considering that that was just a few years ago, I'm going to ask you just, what is your definition of success now?
I think the biggest definition of success is being willing to, my definition is speed, right? Not the businesses don't have enough speed because of fear to execute. Is the definition of speed, execution, and adjusting to that, right? So majority of our ideas that Courtney was thinking about don't work, but the willingness to pivot or bookmark those ideas, they might not work now, but 3 years down the road, they might work, or 4 years down the road, they might work, or 6 months. So I think that's my definition of success is speed, regardless of the outcome. I think the biggest people are so focused on outcome instead of the process and speed of doing that immediately. I think that's for anything, even from, I love sports because it's, if you look at sports as the best athletes in the world, they were so obsessive over the process, so obsessive over the practice side of it. From Kobe Bryant to Michael Jordan, whatever sport you want to look at, Tom Brady, being in the film room, watching the film over and over, the outcome's the outcome. And then you can go back and make changes and make the pivots you need. So that's my definition of it, is speed to execution, and
Yeah.
regardless of what the outcome is at that moment.
Yeah. I
And
like
that
that.
definition of success is just making an impact, and whether that's just with one person or thousands of people. That's my definition of success.
Well, I think at some point I'm going to have to look up the actual statistic. I do remember reading it quite a while ago, so I remember there was a number there, but I forget what it was, but it was impressive. And that is the percentage of businesses that succeed that are mission driven, purpose driven businesses versus product driven businesses. The odds of success are far better for purpose driven businesses than they are just for service or product driven businesses. Nothing wrong with either one, but for some reason, when there's a mission and a purpose, I think the founders have a higher threshold for pain They are knowing they're doing something more than just selling flea collars and leashes and dog bowls, whatever, play toys. They are fulfilling a larger mission that's important to them. And that, I think, the threshold for giving up is way, way higher in that regard. And I think that's one reason, probably out of many, that mission-driven businesses statistically do better. And clearly, you have a mission and your products are simply a way to support the mission as opposed to the other way around. And I think when that happens, your chance of success is far greater, measurably greater than the other way around. And I don't know if you feel that, but that's just that's history. That's a statistic. So good for you. And I think you make the world a better place. And I like dogs. So there you go, right? You can't fail because I like dogs. So, Courtney and Slava, thank you so much. Or Stephanie, as I've been calling you all day. Courtney and Slava, thank you so much for giving up an hour of your very precious time. I know how valuable time is when you're building a business and particularly at the early stages. So thanks for saving some of that time for me and my audience. And I appreciate your candor. You've been very authentic with how hard it is selling, hawking the ring. Oh my God, I just can't imagine me asking my wife that. I think you would see the story of Mike Conrad on a 2020 show about how he mysteriously got murdered.
Idea.
It was your idea.
It was my idea, actually.
Oh, Slava, she's a keeper. That's amazing. She was able to sacrifice, potentially sacrifice, a beautiful wedding ring that it's more than just monetary value at that point. You are never going to fail. That is, you've already proven.
It way too much to let it fail. That's what it was. I believed in it. I believed in it with all I could. And I said, this is going to make it work.
So that's what we tell all our franchisees. I mean, look, we did everything you could possibly, scraped all the knees, got all the black eyes. As business owners, you're coming in with so much support and so much things of what not to do. And the sacrifices that you'll never have to make, ever. I mean, you're still going to have to work and be a business owner. But
absolutely.
But it's not going to be as challenging as on the entrepreneurship side, what we had to do at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, you're the icebreakers, right? You're the big ice-breaking ship plowing, a path for smaller vessels to follow. And that you need a thick hull to exploit that analogy even more. You need a lot of power in the engine to push that ice out of the way. You need a lot of determination. And clearly, both of you have an abundance of that. So I wish you continued success. Next time I'm in Temecula, I will definitely visit Puptqe. I'll reach out to you, let you know I'm coming. And I'll look forward for you to come to Orange County and Chino Hills. Just remember Chino Hills. It's a great upscale community. Yeah. It's very similar to, from a demographic standpoint, to Temecula. I think that store would be very successful in my town, but I'm speaking selfishly.
The Sprout Center, that's where we're actually looking.
Oh, yeah.
For one of our
That's a good center. I'll tell you, even better one is the shops at Chino Hills, Shoppes. Okay. And I'll tell you why. It is a community. They have events. They have concerts. It's a strip mall, so it's mostly outdoor, but they've got fountains. They've got train rides. They've got a splash pad. Joe's. They've got a splash pad. It's what?
Yeah.
Or Trader Joe's is.
It's where Trader Joe's is, yes. Yeah. It's probably premium rent, but we walk our dog there. When we go there, we see people walking dogs. You've got an audience already, and you've got a whole sense of community, and they do events there all the time. The owners of the shopping center are extremely philanthropic. They support a lot of local events. That would be, I would think, of all the shopping centers in my town, if they were all free, I would choose that one. If they were all equally priced, I would choose that one. And if it was a premium, I would probably still choose that one because you've got an amazing sense of community, which are the type of people you're after in that location. That's No, the only thing about free advice is it's worth how much you paid for it. So, to take it for what it's worth. The world according to Mike. What do I know? But guys, thank you so much. I've taken more of your time, but thanks for being here. For my audience watching this on YouTube, if you want to find information about Puptqe, including franchising information and their location in Temecula, Southern California, wine country, look down here where it says see more, and I'll have a link to their website there. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, of course, when it's safe to do so, look at your podcast app. Don't do it while you're driving. It can wait. And look at the show notes, and that information about Puptqe will be there as well. So Courtney and Slava, thanks, and continued success to you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Okay, before we wrap up, here are some final thoughts. What I love about Courtney and Slava's story is that it reminds us that entrepreneurship often begins with something very simple: a passion, a community, a belief that something could be done differently. In their case, it started with dogs, but what they built is something way bigger than just a pet business. They built a place where people connect around something they love. And that's a powerful lesson for anyone thinking about starting a business. Sometimes the opportunity isn't just in selling a product. Sometimes it's in creating an experience, building a community, and giving people a reason to come together. Their journey also highlights another important truth about entrepreneurship. You don't have to start with all the answers. What matters is having the courage to start, the willingness to learn as you go, and the persistence to keep building when the path isn't perfectly clear. For those in my audience who are entrepreneurs or maybe reluctant entrepreneurs, Courtney and Slava's story is a great reminder that meaningful businesses often grow out of authentic passions and real communities. And that's a wrap. Thanks for being part of our Reluctant Entrepreneur family. We've been very busy recording future episodes with fascinating guests, so be sure to subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. And one personal favor, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider giving us a like and subscribe. Those two simple clicks really help us expand our reach. If you're an entrepreneur or know someone who would make a great guest, I'd love to hear from you. Visit reluctantentrepreneur.podcast.com to apply or recommend a guest. And of course, a very quick shameless plug. If you're interested in my book, The Reluctant Entrepreneur, Anatomy of a Business Startup, From Uncertainty to Unstoppable, it's available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon and as an audiobook on both Audible and Amazon. And to everyone listening or watching, if you find yourself stepping into entrepreneurship, whether by choice or by circumstance, remember this: sometimes the path we never planned becomes the journey we're meant to take. Food for thought. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate it. I will see you again very soon.